My name's Justin, and I'm from Ohio. I really wanted to make this video to try to impact the life of someone else with my story, my testimony. I'll begin this story, I guess, around when I was about 12. My parents got divorced. First, I went to live with my dad. We found a house that we moved into, just a rental house. And my dad was taking me to school, and then I was working with my dad after school all the time. So I thought everything was good. My dad always bought me four-wheelers and dirt bikes, guns, anything that he thought would make me happy. Me and my dad were together for about 5 years till I was about 17, and through that time, from 12 to 17, I lived in probably a dozen different houses. Moved about 12 times in that 5 years with my dad's girlfriends. Just never had a secure place to stay after the divorce. I hung out with my friends all the time at school, and I was getting a little more freedom to do what I wanted to do. And me and my buddies, we rode BMX a lot, and that's kind of where all the problems got started, when I started going on my own, out of the house, out of supervision, with friends the same age as me. I was riding my bicycle to school all the time. One day I remember a friend at the lunch table, parents, and he gave us a list to go look for Oxycontin, Percocet, Vicodin, Xanax, and so a lot of us went home that night. We might even have wrote them down on paper. Went home, and I looked for that stuff in the medicine cabinet in my dad's room, and I found Vicodin and Percocet. So I took a handful of them and then took them to school in the 8th grade. So that's what set it off. That was the first time I ever did a drug, was a prescription prescribed to my dad. I guess the race started there. Then we started smoking cigarettes, me and my friends. And then pretty soon we were smoking weed. And then in high school I was a freshman, I was 16. I just got my driver's license, which that jump-started a whole new thing. Me and a friend started selling weed, driving around, 16 years old, selling weed just so we could have money to smoke it. And also I started to get into motocross real heavy. Me and my friends, we all were really rebellious and always riding BMX on property that we weren't allowed to, and also dirt bikes. And the whole time we're starting to experiment with different drugs. So I was 16, and this one day, after building, me and a handful of buddies built this motocross track across the street from where I lived at the time. We had a Bobcat, and a couple of our parents had tractors. So one kid borrowed a Bobcat. Me and a couple other kids borrowed a tractor, land leveler, and we started building this motocross track the summer of '06. And after we built the motocross track, we were riding over there every day after school. One day I got home and I seen that, or heard people over there riding, and so I called over there, over to his house, and his mom answered the phone. She told me to come on over, that everyone was over there riding, and so that's the last thing I remember, is I hung up the phone, and then the next thing I knew, I was looking at these strange lights in the elevator of the hospital. And what had happened is, I guess I ran out in the garage real fast, all excited, hopped on my bike and jetted across the field and hit this 90-foot downhill jump, and forgot to turn the gas on and ran out of gas right at the face of the jump. I broke 5 bones, punctured a lung, and ruptured my spleen and had to get air carried. And of course the doctors prescribed me a bunch of pain medication that sparked my interest with the pain medication. Was I was prescribed them, and then I started abusing them again right off the bat as soon as I got them. So after I healed from the wreck, and I stopped using pain medication after that, pretty much was smoking weed and drinking and partying. So the next couple years went by doing the same thing. I got with this girl at the end of high school. Right before I graduated high school. I was 18, and relationship was whatever we thought a relationship should be from the world's perspective. So me and that girl were together, and we started smoking weed more heavily, and then before we knew it, we were doing perk 30s, and then got turned on to pianos through her father. And so we were doing pain meds heavily, snorting them, and we moved in together. We got an apartment together. She told me one day that she was pregnant, and we were looking forward to the baby coming, and her whole family and my family. The 9 months went by, and in that time we actually found a small rental house in the town that I grew up at. So we moved out of the apartment, moved into this rental house with 2 bedrooms, and started working on the baby's room, painting it, getting it all set up with toys, a crib, car seat, and just trying to get prepared as much as we could. And so the baby came, and we were living at that house. About 6 months went by. So it was sometime in the summer of 2010. So I was 20 at that time. I had a buddy that looked up to me for whatever reason, because I had a house, a nice truck, sweet motorcycles, dirt bike. JP was associated with Megan's family, the girl I was with. So JP called me and told me that he had something he needed to tell me, and that he wanted to come over to the house and tell me. So he came over, and we went out to the garage, and JP told me that Megan had been telling her whole family recently that she knew that the baby wasn't mine because she had a DNA test done. Another man had a DNA test done that proved that the baby was his. So I actually didn't believe JP because the baby looked so much like me, I thought, when he was born. And so I had a DNA test done myself. A couple weeks later I got the results back, and the test proved that I was excluded as a biological father. I didn't know what else to do other than kick my girlfriend out, and so she moved in with, I'm assuming, the child's father, and I stayed at this house by myself. And I was working at the time at a machine shop, mostly welding and running CNC machines. And so after that happened, I didn't have much responsibilities other than do everything for myself, my own pleasures. I started working more than I ever had before, and I turned to work first to cope with the mental pain that I was feeling and the emotions of everything. I started working like crazy, 55, 60 hours a week. Just wanted to make as much money as possible. I thought money would take care of everything. Within the next year, I started using that money, used tax money to buy large quantities of pills and sell them. And then before I knew it, my addiction problem was so out of control that totally consumed everything I worked for and all my money. And that was just with prescription drugs. The father of Megan, the girl I was with, her dad was the one who led me to heroin one night. He had a needle, and him and his friend Eric, who's dead now, Eric's dead. Many of my friends that I did drugs with, actually a handful of them, have died from overdose. So I went over to Eric's house that night, and they got me to inject heroin into my vein. And so then after that, the whole heroin epidemic in my life took off. It was actually a slow process. Like, I did it maybe twice a month at first, and then every weekend for maybe a couple months I was doing it, and then within 2 or 3 months I was doing it every day, maybe a couple times a day, and it just got worse and worse. And then before I knew it, 3 years went by doing heroin almost every day, multiple times a day, and working like crazy the whole time to try to support my habit and support my desires for toys and motorcycles and fast cars. This past year, when I was 23, on heroin for 3 years, my dad was hosting this Halloween party. A group of people, a couple guys and 3 girls who I didn't know, heading out to the fire that I had been hanging out at, the fire pit. And so I ran out there, I just introduced myself to them, and at the time I had this huge mohawk and this big goatee, and I looked pretty hardcore, I would imagine. I was cussing a lot that night, I remember that. Now looking back on it, the reason they started talking about God is because they always talk about God. But so that night the conversation was aimed towards God and the Bible, and so I was listening to him, and I was never interested in reading the Bible. I didn't believe in it because I had no knowledge of it. I couldn't believe in something I didn't know anything about. But something in me just was attracted to the idea of Jesus and the idea of living a pure Christian life. I just wanted to get away from the chaos and the drugs and the people, the liars and the thieves who I thought were friends. That was the first time I ever really asked about Jesus in my life. And so I told them that I looked forward to learning more about Jesus. So about a month after hanging out with them every weekend, I started learning more and more about Jesus and about the Gospels. I just couldn't resist the draw, almost the draw from God on me. One night something came up and we seen a picture online, and it caused me to open up a little bit to this Christian family, and tell them that I previously had a drug problem, and that and I was battling sobriety and trying to stay sober. And so they accepted that, and they thought I was doing good because they didn't know I still had a problem. And at this time I had this real high dollar, big time career machinist job down in Cincinnati, and I was working 12 hours a day there from 5 to 5, so it was pretty hectic, waking up at 3:45 in the morning, and I had just started getting back into heroin right after I got that job, and right before I met this family. It was super stressful, this machinist job, just in an enormous factory, 250,000 square feet, like 300 employees. Not the nicest people that you would want to be around for 12 hours a day. A couple months, or not even that, went by, maybe a month. My supervisor came up to me and he said he wanted me to come to the the shop office with them. So, and went to the office, and when I got in the office, the production manager and the HR manager, they began to tell me that they had seen a huge decline in my performance, and they were wondering why I didn't have a good relationship with my coworkers. I just couldn't take it anymore. Overall, I've been on drugs for 8 or 9 years, since I was 14 years old till I was 23, almost 24, and so I just couldn't take it anymore. So I just opened up to those people at work, and I just told them that I had this opiate addiction that I couldn't kick, and that was why I kept messing up lately. They let me go that day and just sent me home, and of course I went and used like crazy for the next couple days after that. And then, so yeah, my work, they had to lay me off for 2 weeks until I had to go to this this assessment at this doctor's office to see what they could do to get me help and get me sober so that they could get me back to work. And this is what my bosses wanted to do. They wanted me to get sober and get back to work as fast as possible. 2 weeks. In that time, when we went back to when we went to that assessment, the guy just recommended that if I passed that drug test and then passed another drug test a week later, and that if I got re-involved with Alcoholics Anonymous and got a sponsor and started doing the 12 steps, that would be enough for me to stay sober and go back to work. I never made as much money as I had been making at this place before, so I wanted to do whatever I could to keep the job. I really didn't care if I stayed sober or not. I just wanted to get by with whatever drug test I needed to pass to get my job back, and mostly get that big money back is all I wanted. And I said that was great. I'd do AA. I'd pass another drug test in a week, and so my drug addict mentality thought, well, if I take a drug test in a week, I could go use heroin for a couple days, get away with that, and then get clean again and pass another one in a week. And so I went back out that night, right after that doctor's appointment. Went back downtown and got me some more heroin and shot up again. By that time, I started learning about the gospel and about who Jesus is and what he came to do. And I just started learning the love of God that these people had for me, and that I was starting to have for them. And so along with that, I started getting heavy conviction when I would lie or when I would steal something. It was so quick that I started getting convicted of these sins, and before I knew Jesus, before I knew who Jesus was, I didn't even know I was sinning when I was just running off of what the world and public schools taught me. And so I would do all this awful stuff, lie, steal, drugs, and never knew that I was even sinning. So I went downtown that night, I used, and immediately was really convicted. So I called my new family, and I told them, I said, I'm downtown right now, I just got high again. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm completely lost. I've tried everything. And so I came back to their house, and it was an awful time for everyone, really emotional, for everyone to see me in that condition, as messed up on heroin as I was. And about 30 pounds lighter than I am right now, super skinny. I got back to the house, just no one really knew what to do at the time. Everybody was just kind of shocked and hurt. So they just told me to go home and we'd just talk about it tomorrow. So I woke up the next morning and I was still set on getting sober and passing that drug test in a week and do AA and get back to work. So, but my family already knew that that wasn't going to work for me because I tried AA before. It just seems like it was like a substitute for me. If I didn't do drugs, then I thought if I didn't do drugs every day for the rest of my life, I would have to do AA for the rest of the day, my life every day. The next morning I woke up and at this time I began to start praying on my own, and I learned how to pray through Jesus, and I learned how to start talking to Jesus and start asking him stuff and confessing stuff to the Lord. And so that morning, just the power of God in me just caused me to break down, and I just fell to my knees and I cried out to the Lord, just desperate for help, desperate for God. I was just so done. And then God gave me the power to just pretty much immediately just start listening to him through people and through through that Christian family. So I called them, and they immediately told me I would need to get some type of inpatient help, a live-in organization where I could go and get some real sobriety. And I didn't want to do that at first. I disagreed, and because the drugs were still controlling my thinking. All I wanted to do was get high. So we had a conversation on the phone, and felt like I needed to just get by myself and go get with the Lord and just try to hear from him and cry out to him. So I actually went and I grabbed my shotgun and went out to the shooting range and went to unload some frustration and just these emotions. I used my shotgun to try to help that. But while I was doing that, the Lord just compelled me to give everything up for this time, and that there's things that I thought were important, the job and my motorcycle and the money. God just began to show me that they were not that important for me right now, because my life was on the line. And so I called back, and when I called back, they had heard from a friend about a place called Teen Challenge, and they told me that this place was focused on the power of God to get people sober and to restore people's minds, and not focus on the scientific aspects of drug addiction. And so I just submitted to them, and I said, okay, it's not worth, nothing in my life is worth having over this family and over God right now. So I said okay, and I made that decision to just set my job aside for now and go to this place for a scheduled 7 months. And I didn't really know what it was going to be like. I I really didn't care. I just wanted help through God, not through the world or through man. So when I went to the ranch at Teen Challenge, immediately when I got there, like, the comfort of the Lord on the land at the place was really made me feel at ease and feel like everything was okay. And you know, the first couple months adjusting to everything and leaving everything, I feel like I didn't grow much in the Lord, but actually I was growing from the very beginning. I started praying a lot and getting in the Word, and God just started doing all this amazing stuff with me, with my mind in that place. Before I knew it, I just effortlessly stopped cussing. My desire for tobacco just went away. When I was at Teen Challenge, I literally seen miracles there. People get healed from hepatitis. People completely change. And myself, the Lord just started redefining everything I knew about this world. And just like the definition of everything I knew started to change. The stuff that's in the Bible, like, you know, the word love, the world has no idea how much power there is in the love of God, that agape love, and it has no power. God just started showing me that these biblical definitions of words and what they meant in His eyes. And my faith was just like boosted all the time. My faith in God is amazing all on its own. My faith in the Word just started to flourish, and I just trusted the Lord. And I trusted everything that was in the Bible. And when I was there, I found out, I got blood tested and found out that I had hepatitis C in my body. And looking back on it, I believe I got the hepatitis the very first time I used after those two guys, Guy and Eric, because I found out a few months after that they both had it. So it was probably the very first time I used when I got hepatitis. So another thing that started happening was I started to see change in other people around me, and a couple other people that had hepatitis who were my roommates. After praying with them several times about getting the healing for the hepatitis from the Lord, they went back and got blood tests. There were two guys there that their hepatitis went completely away, and even the doctors couldn't even really describe why or how that happened. Me and my friends there, we knew it was definitely the hand of God. And God just, He just started filling my head with this super intelligent stuff from His Word. And I just started craving the things of God and the personality of Christ more than anything. I wanted to be different. I didn't want to be the dirty, sinning drug addict that I used to be. I wanted to be a righteous man and learn how to be the leader of my future family and learn how to provide in a way that is pleasing to the Lord. So just like the complete transformation in my mind just started to take place every day, and I started to learn more stuff, and just my desire for God just kept growing more and more. Looking back on my old life and my past, God started revealing to me places where He was by my side many times, and He was calling out to me and trying to get me to come to him before I knew anything about him, and before I even wanted to know anything about him. There was a time that I look back a couple times where I remember just praying and getting on my knees and praying without even me knowing how to pray or who to pray to. It was almost like that right there was God just trying to call me, trying to show me that He was the way and He was the light. I was in an extremely bad car wreck where I totaled my truck about a year ago, and that was one of the first times when I really realized that God was with me there, because I had told my family that the wreck was just so weird because I hit this enormous tree head on at about 45 miles per hour. The airbag in the truck didn't go off. I did have my seatbelt on, but aside from that, it didn't hurt at all. I didn't feel anything from the wreck. I just remember this huge explosion of wood from the tree and glass from the windows. The impact was huge, but it literally felt like somebody was holding me in my seat, holding my legs, holding my head up for me. The impact was so hard that on the passenger side of the truck, the dash was smashed against the passenger seat, completely touching the passenger seat on that side. And my side was basically untouched. Just the countless times that I probably shot up heroin over 1,000 times. I almost wrecked my truck probably a dozen different times. I would wake up and I'd be off the road in the ditch or up on the sidewalk. So it was totally God with me, just battling for me when I was helpless. There was another time when I had two friends that came over to my house, and they went in my bathroom to smoke cigarettes because I didn't smoke at the time, and they came out, and I had a funny feeling that they were in there doing some type of drug. I didn't really suspect heroin at the time. I wasn't doing it then. This was before I started using. And this girl came out of my bathroom, and she just sat down on my couch. She said a few things to me, and she fell asleep. And the other guy that was with her came in the room and immediately yelled out her name and shouted for her. And he was like, "Wake up, wake up!" And he slapped her across the face when she was sleeping, and she didn't move. And then he ran in my kitchen, filled up a pot full of water, splashed it in her face, and she still didn't respond, completely lifeless. And then at that point, she was starting to turn pale, and her lips were starting to turn purple. And that's when my friend told me that she just overdosed on heroin. We were both of us were in shock, and so I was like, dude, I gotta call 911 right now. So I grabbed my cell phone, and I was so scared immediately that it took me 3 times to get the number 911 right on my phone. And I finally did, and paramedic answered, and the paramedic, I told her what was going on, that that I thought she had overdosed, and I didn't think she was breathing. She was turning pale, and the paramedic started to tell me to lay her out on the floor, put her arms to her side, and tilt her head back and check her mouth for vomit. And then she told me to start doing mouth-to-mouth to her, and to start breathing for her. So I did that, and then at that point, the girl was like completely purple, totally looked like she was gonna die. And then the paramedic told me that I needed to start to do CPR on her and chest compression. So to sum it up, the paramedics got there at my house in about 5 minutes because I was so close to the station. And so they were able to bring her back to life with the naloxone. And looking back on all that, I said, God, please don't let Jessica die. Please don't let her die. I had no idea really that I had even did that, but there's times I called out to God and I didn't even know what I was doing. God has been trying to get me to come to Him for a long time. Now that I finally have, He has filled me up with so much joy and peace and patience and love. I couldn't be more thankful for everything in my life, even the bad stuff that I've been through and I've learned from. I'm just completely grateful that God has given me the things that He already has and taught me the stuff that He already has. God is the only reason that I have the strength to overcome heroin addiction or any type of drug addiction or tobacco addiction. God is the only way to get that kind of power. He is the only higher power, the real higher power. Pray, read God's Word, stop sinning, keep His commands, obey the voice of the Lord, and then walk in righteousness and see the things of this earth through the eyes of Him who created it.
Do you ever get weary? Do you ever get weary? Do you ever pray for help me? Well, look down, my friend, bend down. God has blessed you with the help you need. If you would just look down, you'll find what you need. See that little sister? See that little brother? If you'll ever look down, you'll find what you need. See them hiding behind your pride. They are there to help you in your time of need. Do you ever get tired? Do you ever get weak? Well, look down, my friend, and you'll find what you need. Help is in the form of someone smaller. Help is in the form of someone weak. Help is in the form of someone younger. Help is in the form of someone